Good. All right. Welcome to the newest episode of Sports Talk Central. I'm your host, Adeep Mahmood, with my normal co-host Hunter. And today we're going to be doing a brief show just talking about the World Series, how it's going so far, a potential fire sale in Oakland, uh, talking about the Ravens Steelers, as well as talking about Virginia Tech. So
Hey,
let's first talk about
who is going today, folks? No hat.
yeah. So let's go. Let's just talk about the World Series. What are your thoughts so far in the World Series?
Yeah, so I'm just making sure. So Atlanta won last night, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing three.
That's
Atlanta won last night. Yeah, sorry, I was so out of the loop with like a couple things last night. It is nice to see them playing well. I again, it's a kind of a lesser of two evils with me. I would prefer if Atlanta won, but they're a huge rival, so I kind of feel gross rooting for them. But they've played well, man. I felt awful though for Charlie Morton. That's just such a killer injury. Um, you know, I saw what Altuve did. Within Houston, just kind of like looking over a little bit, and Dusty Baker giving him a look as well. But I'm definitely been surprised by Atlanta because if you go back and watch in the regular season, they were not that good, and they lost Acuna, which
Yep.
is it's
They
crazy.
lost Broca.
Yeah, I don't even know how they're here without those guys, especially Acuna. I think he's their best player. And the fact that they're doing it without them just goes to show how deep of a lineup they have. This has been a really good World Series, and um, I'm excited to see how if they can potentially go up 3-1 pretty soon. All the dogs are barking because the food is here, so that's just no worries.
Yeah, no. So for me, it was the World Series. Yeah, for me, it was the World Series. The Charlie Morton thing, it's definitely a bummer because the problem with it is that the Braves have three starters: Morton, Ian Anderson, and Max Fried. And with Morton being out, you now have a bullpen game in games 4 and games 5 are now a bullpen game for Atlanta because originally it was going to be bullpen. No, it was going to be Morton, Fried, Anderson, bullpen game, Morton, Fried, Anderson. That's kind of I think how the Braves wanted to do it. But the problem is with Morton's injury, and that's tough. Like people don't understand. Like that's the plant foot. So you're trying to throw 95 off the plant foot. So that's just brutal for him. But now the issue is it's Free game 2, Anderson game 3, bullpen game 4, bullpen game 5, unless you put Freed on short rest. Um, but it's two bullpen games, which is what the Braves probably did not want to happen. So it's Dylan Lee today against Zach Greinke. It definitely gives the advantage to Houston. I mean, if Houston won yesterday, Houston would have their odds of winning would have been up significantly. I mean, it's interesting to see. I mean, they're offensively Braves are doing a good job. I mean, I feel like with Houston, Altuve, Correa, those guys are so good. Bregman is slowed down for a bit. Jordan Alvarez is pretty much the next David Ortiz, and what he's been able to do. So if you can slow down Jordan Alvarez, I think that's gonna be pretty good. It's tough. I mean, Houston, I still think has the advantage because I trust their long relievers. Like if it's a bullpen game situation, I trust their long relievers between Urquidy, Greinke, and Jake Odorizzi over Jesse Chavez and Dylan Lee. So I trust what Houston has if it does get to that point. I don't think, but it's gonna be pretty interesting to see what happens. And then one of the things that did bother me, Ken Rosenthal has been pissing me off for the last year or so because he's like this over the last summer. He's saying how bad what the Orioles were doing is bad for baseball, but then he's saying, well, Houston Astros rebuild worked, and so we're not going to criticize that, but not
When did they even rebuild? They've been good for the last 5 years.
yeah. Wait, Houston?
Yeah, like well, they kind of
Well,
rebuilt
right,
what
2011, 2011,
2011 till what 2015 or
2015.
something.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So no, but that point he was bringing up a lot of Orioles fans bring up. It's like the Orioles are doing the same thing that Houston was doing, and then in one sentence you say that what this is bad for baseball, and we don't know if it'll work. Then
Mm.
you send out another tweet saying, "Oh yeah, we know that the Houston rebuild worked, but so I'm fine with that." But then the Orioles are structuring their rebuild based off Houston, and in the second tweet, that bothered me. And then he was talking about Tyler Matzik. or he was talking about the bullpen, the idea of the bullpen game, and
Yeah.
saying how it wasn't good for baseball. And then I was like, no, Tyler Matzik is a great story. I mean, a former first round pick from the Rockies, had the yips, was out of baseball for a year, and now he's been a postseason hero for Atlanta. I mean, that's a great story. And I know a lot of people don't like middle relievers because for some whatever reason they like the starters, they like the closers, but the middle relievers they don't get that much attention. But there's some very good options there, like uh, Matzik, AJ Minter from Atlanta, he's good. Ryan Presley, he's good. I mean, there's some nice middle relievers out there. Josh Hader from Milwaukee.
Yes.
Milwaukee has another one, Devin Williams, I believe, from Milwaukee, or some. They have another guy that broke his hand, so he was in the postseason. But a lot of these middle relievers are underrated, and I think it just ticks me off that, especially with the new CBA. Um, but with Houston, it's definitely interesting with Houston because they haven't really played close games in the postseason. And really, with the exception of the Giants and Dodgers, it's a lot of these games were like 9-2, 14-6 type games. So it was great seeing a 2-0 game. It was great seeing that. So it's definitely something interesting. So we'll move on to the next story, which is another baseball story, which is Oakland. This isn't there's no
That's gonna be a fire sale.
let's make this one clear. No one's officially saying that what Oakland's doing is a fire sale.
Yeah.
It's just the assumption that the Padres asked to interview Bob Melvin. Basically, the Padres signed Bob Melvin to a 3-year contract to manage. But the idea was no one knew Bob Melvin was available. Like the Oakland A's just let Bob Melvin just interview with the Padres and accept the job. And by the way, the Oakland A's, even though they owe Bob Melvin $4 million, they didn't ask for any compensation. They
Wait,
didn't.
what?
No,
What?
they didn't.
Why?
I have
Why
no
would
idea.
you ask for money?
No picks, no money, no players. It's like you want to manage the Padres, go ahead.
That doesn't make any sense. Is Billy Bean just being cheap for being cheap?
I have no idea. I mean, we don't know if they're going to play in Oakland a few years from now. We know that the A's are cheap. Like they and the Rays are like the two organizations. They're they're cheap. They're just that's the word to describe them. So no, like that's what shocked me. It's like $4 million. It's not a lot of money. It's I don't think that's the highest paid manager. So I was like, Bob Melvin's really good. That's what really bugged me about
He
the.
is. He's a great manager.
Yeah, so now the question now comes to the point of the Oakland A's now have some great trade pieces, and they don't have a great farm system. So they
Yes.
have so they might be doing a rebuild. So they got Chris Bassett, who's 32 years old, but he's
They
a
got some good pitchers, I'm pretty sure, right?
yeah Chris Bassett and Sean Manaea.
I mean,
Um,
he's awesome. He started the wild card game, I want to say, a year or two
yeah,
ago. I'm pretty
yeah.
sure.
And then they have Matt Chapman, one of the better defending third basemen, and then Matt Olson. So
Mhm.
I texted you about this. You say 3 out of those 4 are traded.
Yeah, if Billy Bean wants to. I mean, he's, if he's going to go full money ball, which he very well may here, um, it would make sense because the A's never have a big payroll. Never.
No, they don't. They
Yeah.
don't. Yeah, and then just to put it in perspective, Chris Bassett, he's set to make about 10 million. No, eight. No, 8 to 8, anywhere between 8 to 10 million
Uh-huh.
this year in our in arbitration. So he's done. He's gone. He's gone. They're gonna trade him. Manea, I think it's about 7 million he's owed in arbitration. He's a free agent. Bassett's a free agent. He's gone. Chapman, it's very hard to find a third baseman who plays well defensively as well as he has. I mean, I wouldn't. I just feel bad for Oakland fans. Like I feel bad.
Yeah, but when was the last time they won around? Back, I think it's actually back towards the Moneyball days.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, they didn't even really win around then. I swear, man. I think the last time they won around was before the Moneyball time, but when Billy was the GM. It's
I mean,
pretty. I
yeah,
feel bad.
yeah. Because like the fans might lose their team. They might go to Vegas. Bob Melvin was giving up they just let Bob Melvin. Here's the door, Bob. If you want to go coach the Padres, go ahead. I mean, I think this is great for the Padres because with that roster, imagine like if he could go into Oakland and continue to put up a winning team with Olson and Chapman and Bassett and those guys, Manea and Luzardo and those guys. Imagine what he could do with Machado and Hosmer and
Yeah.
and then I mean, yeah, I mean, imagine what he can do with those guys. I mean, it's just I think AJ Preller was on the seat for a little bit.
Hot seat.
Uh, yeah, a hot seat for a little bit. Because the Padres were this really hyped team with all their prospects and all the trades and Tatis, and then they go out and get Jace Tingler, who I think was hired mainly because Preller knew him from Texas.
I'm
Uh,
pretty sure that's probably what it was, I would say. Yeah.
And then you look at what the other names they were thinking about, like Showalter, Bob Mel. No, Showalter. It was Ozzie Guillen was an option for them.
Yeah.
Bruce Bochy was an option for them. Ron Washington might have been an option for them. So it was very clear. I would have been fine with Ron. Like if I was a Padres fan, I would have been thrilled with Ron Washington as the manager.
How long has he been out of the league?
No, he's with the Braves, third base coach.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, because I remember he was the manager for I want to say it was Texas.
Yeah, but no, Bannister. No, I think it was Bannister. It's I maybe a long time ago. Like I know that Jeff Bannister was.
I thought he was the manager in Texas for the Rangers a while back. I thought.
Yeah, a long time ago.
I want to say it was a decade ago. Because wasn't he the manager when he took them to the World Series?
Probably. Yeah. I think it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was when they lost to St. Louis.
St. Louis. Yeah.
I want to say it was St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, so do you think he is? Do you think Oakland gives him a call?
I'm not really sure. I mean, it's possible if he wants to get back into being a full-time manager.
I mean, Oakland. He was with Oakland during the Moneyball days.
Well, that would be a Billy Bean connection.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they do. I mean, I think that if for Oakland fans going back to Oakland, if they don't get a Ron Washington or a Bruce Bochy, or I don't think Bruce Bochy goes to I don't know if he goes to Oakland or they don't go get if they don't get like a Showalter, I think that it just makes it worse because I don't know. I think 9 managers out of every 10 managers is going to be a step down from Bob Melvin. Like
yes,
and the fact that they got no compensation for him, I just don't understand that one. But I like I said, I think that Chris Bassett's gone. I think that they're going through a full-on rebuild. Now, I don't know if it's going to be like a Houston style rebuild or if it's going to be a quick rebuild because, like I mentioned, they don't have a great farm system. So, and we should have expected this in the trade deadline when Luzardo was traded.
Mm-hmm.
Like that should have been the sign of you're just going to trade Luzardo even though he has 4 or 5 years of control remaining, and he could be an ace. I understand he was disappointing, but he's cheap and he's good. I don't know why you traded him. I forgot who else who they got. No, I think it was like a center fielder they got back for him. But that should have been a telltale sign. We'll see what Oakland does. I think it was Chris Rose. I think not Trevor. Trevor Plouffe was on the Chris Rose station, and he said that maybe it was something like he saw Billy Bean saw what that the Astros are actually starting to rebuild faster again, and the Mariners they have one of the best farm systems.
Yeah.
And so maybe it was a situation of, look, we're not going to be competing anytime soon. We might as well pack it in and punt for a few years and then come back stronger. But I don't think Oakland does that.
I don't think so. I feel like Billy's going to want to compete as soon as he can, to be honest.
Yeah, so that's a story we're going to keep track of. There's more updates to that story, of course, next week when we in our next episode we'll talk about it. So we'll talk Ravens Steelers. Ravens did lose to the Bengals. There's a lot of Ravens fans upset.
Oh
I
yeah,
would,
I did see before you say that. I saw a lot of Ravens fans were very upset with Martindale just because it sounds like he was blitzing a lot. I just wanted to like hear what are your thoughts on that with just Burrow and everything.
uh,
Or are you concerned with the defense going into the second half because
yeah, no,
they
no, I'm gonna get into that a little bit.
yeah
I can get into that right now. So I'm not too concerned because what actually I didn't realize this. So I mentioned last week that Josh Bynes came in as a middle linebacker and then he kind of stabilized the defense. Well, so apparently what happened there was they moved Patrick Queen to will linebacker. So he's more coverage. He's not the middle linebacker anymore. He's the will linebacker. So apparently that's more coverage. And the tackling has been cleaned up. Tackling is a lot better. And I didn't know this, but Patrick Queen was actually will linebacker at LSU. So his main experience as a linebacker is will linebacker, not the middle linebacker. And then the Ravens put him at the middle linebacker this year. So that might have been part of the issue with tackling. Derek Wolfe is coming back from an injury, back injury, so he might be back for the Vikings game. And
Mhm.
then Marlon Humphrey, it seemed like his technique was bad because it seemed like he was going. It's like more like a turnstile with Jamar Chase. Now, part of that I didn't realize is Marlon Humphrey's a great press man corner. So if he can get his hands on you, then he'll lock you down. But if you're a great route runner, you can probably beat him. And I think that's his biggest weakness. And
Yeah,
uh, maybe that's an Alabama thing.
he was great at punching the ball out though with turnovers and that stuff. I will say
Yeah.
that
So he's
he's
more he's more of a in boxing terms. He's more of a striker than he is a technician, if that makes sense.
that's a good comparison actually.
Yeah, so part of that is so I think that was the issue there, and I think losing Marcus Peters hurts a ton. Now I know that so I'll go a little after you talk about the Steelers. There's a brief I can talk briefly about the a
Yeah,
couple pieces on defense, but no, I think it's more so of they're fight like Ravens are like if you were to tell me that the Ravens would lose Marcus Peters, LJ Fort, their top three running
I
backs,
knew you would say that. Yeah,
Ron Stanley, all those injuries that they had, they're 5-2, and they beat Kansas City, they beat the Colts, they beat the Chargers, and then it's like, yeah, I would take that. Like they're
yeah,
still,
with all the injuries, absolutely. Yeah,
yeah, and when you look at the fact that guys are coming back healthy, like Derek Wolf's going to help improve Brandon Williams, Calais Campbell's been playing well,
Mhm.
Anthony Averett has been playing well. Uh, and the fact that they've been able to make these adjustments, I think it's good. Now offensive line is a big issue. I would also say that Lamar. I didn't realize this, but Lamar actually has time to throw the ball. Rashad. So I know Ravens fans want them to trade for Andre Dillard. I don't know how good Andre Dillard is as a right tackle. That's the big concern I have.
Mhm.
So Bakari should come back in a couple weeks, but when Phillips is the third guy they put at right tackle. Like they remember Villanueva week one, then it's Makari week two, now it's Phillips. So they're like really banged up offensive line, but Villanueva has been playing well, a good, not great. In fact, and interesting enough for Ravens fans, this keeps bringing up the discussion of Orlando Brown. Like, did they trade him too early? So if you look at pass block win rate over run block win rate, Orlando Brown sucks. Like to put it kindly, he sucks.
Yeah, that was a nice way to say it, but yeah,
Yeah,
he's
like
not been good this year.
he's not been good. The whole Kansas City thing hasn't been good. Patrick
Kansas City,
Mahomes,
I will say this: that team looks bad. It's bad enough that Patrick Mahomes' brother and his girl and Patrick Mahomes'
wife,
girlfriend are doing
and his wife.
his wife. They're doing TikToks, and he's just like doing this. Did you see that video on Twitter?
Yeah, he's not happy.
Yeah, I mean, the guy has like it's no wonder that he has 9 or 10 interceptions this season because this is happening right now when he's trying to concentrate.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, and
um,
did you see the whole Tyrann Matthew Anthony Hitchens thing?
No, what happened with that?
Basically, Anthony Hitchens talked about like the fans have been like yelling at them on social media stuff, and then Tyrann Mathieu said this is probably one of the more toxic fan bases.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Your own fans, dude. Your team. I mean, that's
and here's the thing: Tyrann Mathieu's a free agent, so he is.
yeah.
So you got to pay either Orlando Brown or Tyrann Mathieu. I don't know. I mean, and for Orlando Brown, grass ain't greener on the other side. I mean, he wanted to be a left tackle. He got the opportunity to be a left tackle. Look what's happening. But yeah, but going back to with the Ravens, Rashad Bateman has looked like a veteran for the last 2 games.
Yes.
And also the game. And one of the things is Lamar, like he plays good. He's great if you can play backyard football with him, and have and Watkins was great on this play at the 4th and 19 against the Lions. This was that was an example of backyard play. Hollywood, Andrews, like they have enough chemistry that if the play breaks down, that they can find themselves in open plays. Rashad Bateman has shown he's like that as well. I just can't wait to see Rashad Bateman, Hollywood Brown, Sammy Watkins, and Mark Andrews all on the same field. I understand they need to trade for a running back. Jaguars, I would love to see James Robinson on the Ravens. He's not going to the Ravens because the Jaguars won't trade him.
There's no way that guy is going to Baltimore. I am sorry.
Yeah. Marlon Mack is okay, but he won't move the needle. Miles Sanders is hurt. I mean, I would rather
give a lot of good backs out there. That's the thing.
Yeah. So I'd rather not give Nate McCrary a chance. I want to give Nate McCrary a chance. Tyson Williams is out. Let me put it this way: if you hear in the next week or so that Tyson Williams is riding the bench or he's just cut outright, don't be shocked, because that 4th and 15 play, he basically catches the pass and then jogs out of bounds. Does not try to go upfield. I understand that the game is out of hand at that point, but John Harbaugh's not going to like that. It was a simple pass. He could have been able to get that 4th down conversion. If he just went upfield and ran for another 5-6 yards, he would have been able to get a 1st down. The fact that it just didn't seem right that he just jogs out of bounds. So if he's not on the team, he's done. Like I wouldn't be shocked. But what are your thoughts on the Steelers? I heard that Melvin Ingram wants out.
Yeah, I don't really know what's going on with that, but I mean, I think what he needed to realize is Alex Highsmith is a stud. Why did the Steelers let Bud Dupree go? Oh, because they had his replacement drafted in the 2nd or 3rd round of last year's draft. He's been really good when he's healthy. It's no wonder that his snap count is going to go down a bit. So, I mean, he can ask out all he wants. They're not going to take anything less than a 2nd for him. This is Kevin Colbert you're talking about here. They're not just going to – remember what happened with James Washington? He asked out. They haven't traded him. So, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. I'm sure they've had talks about it. We'll see where that goes. This is a big matchup in Cleveland tomorrow. I know both teams are in the bottom of the division, but Baker Mayfield is somehow playing through a fractured shoulder, which is healing in quotation marks, and a torn labrum, which is also healing in quotation marks.
It's not healing. It just means he can take one more hit. That's it.
I don't think that's a good idea. I really don't think this is a good idea for him. I understand that he's a football player. He's tough. I get it. You can play through pain. What if TJ Watt comes back there and just hits you? I mean, are you going to be able to get up?
And by the way, that shoulder.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that goes down if he gets hit tackled. That's most of the time that is the first thing that will go on the ground if he gets tackled.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's just like I just don't think it's a good idea. I mean, Keenan played fine last week. Why not just have him heal up for another week? I know it's the Steelers, it's your biggest rival, blah, 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 blah. But this is 2 really big shoulder injuries, and you have arguably the best defensive player in football coming at you every play. He's probably going to hit you at least once.
It's not even Haywood or Tuitt.
Yeah. I mean, Tuitt's not even playing, but Hayward's going to play. But what if he comes down on you? He's been one of the best players in football this year. Alex Highsmith comes off the edge. Even Melvin Ingram, they have a couple, what if they do an inside linebacker blitz with Schobert or Devin Bush? I mean, I know he's athletic and all. I just don't think it's a good idea. I think it should be a good game, though. I will say that. I think It's going to be real. I don't really know how it's going to go because it's going to be really close. It's a game that the Steelers can very well win, and they can get their season back on track. It also wouldn't be surprising if they did lose it because it is in Cleveland. But no Kareem Hunt. I think Nick Chubb is supposed to be playing. I'm pretty positive.
But he might be limited, yeah.
Odell, I'm pretty sure, is banged up, but I think he's supposed to play. But is he going to be that much of a factor, though? Jarvis Landry, also banged up. The Browns are just banged up as a whole. So it should be interesting to see how this goes. The big test for the Steelers' run defense. They're relatively healthy coming in. Good. Thank God they had the bye week. There's really not much else I can say about them, to be honest.
Yeah, no, and then are you scared? Are you scared about D'Ernest Johnson?
Say that one more time.
Are you scared about D'Ernest Johnson? Because I know that he doesn't have a track record, but he had a good game.
He had a good game. I mean, the Steelers' run defense will have to be prepared for him and Nick Chubb. They'll probably give Chubb, the majority of the carries.
And Fenton, the other running back they have.
Yeah, I think I'm not like super scared. I would say I'm more obviously Nick Chubb is someone who I'm much more fearful of, but we'll see.
Yeah, and then I think before we get to the Virginia Tech part of this episode, just one thing I did kind of tee it up about some trade targets.
Mm-hmm.
This is a Virginia Tech podcast, but I do want to bring up a name. I do want to bring up a potential target that both of us like when we were in college, and that's Kyle Fuller. And he's a guy that is benched by the Broncos. He's owed about $4 or $5 million. You could probably get for a fourth-round pick. For Ravens fans, don't be shocked if the Ravens trade for Kyle Fuller. He's a Baltimore native. He would kind of be like that Marcus Peters type guy.
Don't want to root against that guy. I love him too much. Stop it.
But the reasoning for me would be like you're going to get back Derek Wolfe. You're going to get back Patrick Queen is likely going to play better, but Fuller allows you. It's that Marcus Peters edition that allows you to use Anthony Averett as a chess piece. So like I said before about how Marlon Humphrey isn't great when it comes to like route runners like with Justin Jefferson and that's the reason why Keenan Allen, he wasn't on Keenan Allen in the Chargers game. Averett can kind of help you there. Don't be shocked. I think the Ravens. I just think that it's been quiet on the cornerback market. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded to Baltimore. I also wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't because I think that the cap hit might be. I don't know if they can make the cap hit work. They might have to restructure Marcus Peters' contract or use voided years, which they tried to avoid using. But watch out! I'm going to watch out for that. But look, that's going to be a segue to Virginia Tech. We do play. We played. I
will say I didn't get to watch most of the game today. Thank God they got the win. I mean, Georgia Tech, they're not good. That's probably one of the worst teams in your division. They probably have one more gimme win like this left on the schedule. Duke is even worse than them. Yep. They should be able to be bowl eligible by the end of the year if they win one of their other games. I still feel the same way about the coaching staff and everything. I liked their first half. It sounded like today Trey Turner was actually being utilized because for reasons I don't know why they just don't utilize him on other games. But forgive me if I'm wrong. I think 26-17.
Yeah, 26-17. But
I will let you watch the game if you want to give me your thoughts on how they looked and everything.
I'll say this: they looked better. I think that it was clear. It's been said that Fuente has taken control of the offense last couple of games. He also did take control of the offense for the first 3 years of Memphis, and then Cornelsen took it for last year. I don't know why he hasn't taken control of the offense. He didn't. Let me rephrase it. After the bye week, when they played Notre Dame, why Fuente didn't just take control of the offense at that point and just say, look, we're going to just call Cornelsen the offensive coordinator and call him the quarterback's coach, but I'm doing the plays. I'm doing the play calling. And it's just sad to see that situation because I honestly think that I heard this on, the Tech Sideline podcast. They mentioned something about how the players really like Fuente.
Yeah.
But they don't trust Cornelsen. So it's sad to see.
I have heard that too. I mean, I will say this right I had a class with Caleb Farley a couple years ago, and he flat out said he did not like Cornelsen. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and so it's sad to see Fuente because if Cornelison wasn't there and Fuente had control of the offense, we would like Fuente more. But Fuente put it on himself by continuing to allow Cornelison to have an influence. I mean, that to me is sad. I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's too late. Fuente's done after this year. I think that.
I mean, yeah, it's basically over. I saw on 247 Sports yesterday, Evan Watkins said that he spoke to someone who apparently it sounds like the guy is in the know that Fuente has been told that he is not coming back next season. Don't know how they got that information. I guess they're trying to keep it quiet and not announce it like LSU did with Coach O. But I think it sounds like they're probably going to part ways. They're not going to win out. Stop that stuff there. But even if they go 7-5, that's not going to be enough to save his job.
Yeah, no, and I think that to me, it just seems like it's a question of when and not if, because the problem is if you fire Fuente now, there's a few issues that you have. One is you're going to have the Fuente loyalists, Cornelison and Vance Weiss and some of these other guys leave. And then you're going to have Hamilton as your coach, and then a bunch of the other half of the guys are in transition. They don't know if they're going to be here next year. So that's going to make them nervous. And then you're going to have a mass exodus of transfers. So James Mitchell, who I think are those guys, Trey Turner, are they just going to declare for the draft, or are they going to go transfer? And then so it's a really bad look. And then I was listening to a more recent episode. Fuente right now has 3 years on his contract, right? If you look at a high schooler, you have 3 years, and then you go to the NFL. So you can go in and if Fuente were hypothetically the coach next year, you could still say, okay, I'm fine with that because it's 3 years and I'm going to the NFL, just like he has 3 years left. But if he has 2 years left, and you're talking to these same prospects, now the thought creeps in is that if you're not guaranteeing him a future, that an extension, is it 2 years with Fuente and 1 year with someone else? So that's going to hurt recruiting. That's going to kneecap recruiting. So it's always going to be tricky. And then I think it's going to be silent. I think it's going to be one of those things behind closed doors. It's like we're doing an open search. We're not going to say publicly, but like behind closed doors, Dustin Fuente, thank you for your time here. You're not coaching next year.
Yes.
And we'll
negotiate. I think that's probably what's going to happen. But keep going. Yes.
Yeah, but we're going to negotiate something where we'll pay you $2.5 million over the next 3 years or something. We'll make it public December 16th, 17th. But while that's happening, and we'll end with this, like some of the head coaching updates. So I think that, I mean, apparently the rumors are out there that Napier is an option, Dave Clawson's an option.
I like Billy Napier quite a bit, man.
PJ Fleck is an option as well. It could be interesting. I mean, Napier, I think would be. I'm going.
Saw there rumors about Sonny Dykes from SMU. No.
No, that's a tech. I think he's more.
I think that's a Fuente part 2 waiting to happen. He's only had one good season there, which is this year. The prior seasons, barely above 500. Pass. Yep. I wouldn't want that at all.
Yeah, and I feel like with Texas, I think he's more of a Texas guy because if you look at him at Cal, he struggled. And then when he goes to Texas, yeah, he's good at SMU. I mean, I think he's more looking at the Texas Tech job or he's looking in that place. And by the way, the Texas Tech job or the TCU job, if Gary Patterson isn't retained. And don't be shocked if Fuente goes heads over to Texas.
Yeah,
because that's where he started. I think that's where he's likely going to be. I think that article that came out a few weeks ago about how they were focusing more of their efforts on Texas than Virginia for recruiting, I think that really tells you that Fuente is more in tune with the Texas, Oklahoma region, not necessarily the East Coast region. The only concern I would have with Napier is he's G5 coach. Yeah, I understand he was a Saban assistant and a Dabo Swinney assistant. But at the end of the day, just because you're an assistant of a really great coach, that doesn't mean you're going to be 90 or 80% as good as he is. Like, look at, say, Belichick's assistants. Their track records aren't great. So that's the only concern I have with Napier. The other concern is, what is his recruiting? like in the East Coast, that's the other big issue that you would have.
Yeah.
He's more of a Louisiana guy. I mean, granted, I could see it working, but it sucks that Charles Huff, the Marshall head coach, and then the Alabama, I think he was with Alabama, then goes to Marshall, is their head coach, that he doesn't have more experience because Charles Huff is a really good recruiter on the East Coast, so that's going to be really important if you can get that
I
talent
agree.
area. But it's amazing that a year can change everything because if you told Tech fans a year ago that Tony Elliott was a finalist, they'd be thrilled. You ask them now, they wouldn't be thrilled if Tony Elliott was head coach.
I agree.
So that's so it's gonna be pretty interesting. I think we're both in agreement that Fuente's done regardless of what happens. I mean, the Coastal still is garbage.
Yes.
Because the fact that Tech has a 1 or 2% chance of making it to the championship game. And again, 1 or 2% chance. It's not on Tech. It's not about Virginia Tech. It's about how garbage the Coastal is because right
Absolutely.
now Pitt has one conference loss.
I did see today that they lost to
Miami.
They lost to Miami. I was surprised they went up there and beat them. Kenny Pickett played well, but I guess Pitt, and that's the thing, Pitt's defense is bad. It's a bad unit. I mean, I was definitely surprised that Miami is potentially, I mean, they're not good. I don't think they're going to make the ACC championship game. I don't think they can. I think the big one is going to be Virginia versus Pitt.
Yeah, no, and I think even Virginia, I know Brendan Armstrong isn't a bad quarterback, but I wouldn't be. I know because I know Virginia has what 2 conference losses, and they have 2 more games. They're 6-2 right now. Conference, no, 4-2.
Tech right now is 2-2 conference.
Miami's 2-2.
Tech is 2-2 as well. Yep.
Yep. So let me break it down. Here's the breakdown for it. Pitt has 1 conference loss.
But if they're 3-1.
Yes. UVA right now has 2 conference losses.
I believe they're 2-2 or 3-2.
4-2.
Oh, they're 4-2. Okay.
Yeah, they're 4-2. And then it's Miami, Tech,
yeah,
and then UNC. But
yeah.
UNC is 3-3.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech either has 2 or 3 conference losses. But that's to my point. Like, if they beat Boston College, if they beat Boston College, if they beat Duke, if they go 2-2 next couple weeks, they might make some noise. I think it's a little too late. Kind of like how with Fuente with the offense, but it's definitely something that to watch out for. But Tech fans shouldn't be too happy because it's not about Virginia Tech. It's about how bad the Coastal is. But it's gonna be pretty interesting to see. But yeah, Virginia Tech is playing Boston College next week, and then Duke on Friday, and then Duke on 2 weeks later, and then after that it's I believe Miami, and then Miami and UVA. So we'll see what happens. They can finish strong, but we'll see what happens. But I think Tech fans are more looking after December 15th to December 16th.
Basically, yes. I could.
Yeah, so they're not. So whatever happens. They're more concerned with the setup for next year. So that's how we'll end the show. We'll have a new show next week, probably if your schedule permits, probably around the Tech Boston College game. If not, then
I'll let you know my schedule for my new job as soon as I can, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see you next week.
Yeah, sounds good.